Careers, volunteer work, travel, adventure, and all the things we've so longed to do. A former athlete in high school and college, he dreams of being able to run again. He has a PhD from Carnegie Mellon and might like to teach someday. I hope to get my master's in speech pathology and work with special needs children. I have dreams of perhaps starting my own business. I dream of the little things, too. I dream of someday being able to walk down the hallway or outside to stroll in the yard. I dream of being able to take a bath or even a long hot shower instead of a sponge bath. I dream of being self-reliant. I dream of being able to read and play with my niece and nephew. I dream of being able to call and spend time with my friends and family as we catch up on so many years lost. I dream of holidays spent with loved ones instead of all alone, as I am unable to travel and my health cannot handle many visitors. I dream of walking and running and dancing. Most of all, I dream of the vibrant, glorious feeling of good health, and I strive for it every day. In the meantime, I watch through my bedroom window as time slips by. The battle goes on. I share all this with you today so that perhaps I can somehow get across to you that so much more needs to be done. More needs to be done to raise money for biophysical research so that a marker, treatment, or cure can be found. More needs to be done to help raise awareness and understanding so that those with CFS are not made to feel shame for being ill. More needs to be done to educate doctors so that patients are not so easily dismissed or mistreated. More needs to be done to tighten the case definition of CFS and firm up research criteria. More needs to be done to change the name to one that doesn't trivialize the disease, nor simply focus on only one of its many symptoms. The word fatigue doesn't come remotely close to describing what we experience. We are sick, not tired. Above all, more needs to be done so that those of us stricken with this illness can get our lives back. Thank you for hearing my story.
And Ms. Bertrand, in case you or your family are watching this video, thank you very much for that, for sending that DVD to us and being able to be represented here today in the public comment. Next is Laura Black. Ms. Black. If you would turn that microphone toward you so you can be heard and all. Thank you.
As a healthcare provider dedicated to the treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome and other similar chronic and all too often disabling illnesses, I would like to thank the CFSAC for the opportunity to speak today. Over the last 25 years, the CDC has been funded with over $100 million by the Department of Health and Human Services. Why is it then that to date, there has been no attempt on the part of the CDC to further explore the many abnormal findings associated with chronic fatigue syndrome, which have been discovered by researchers outside of the CDC, such as alterations in DNA, suspect viral infections or co-infections by herpes viruses or enteroviruses and XMRV. What does the CDC have to show for our taxpayer dollars in 25 years lost to illness for 1 million or more Americans? Attempts to revise the original diagnostic criteria by relying solely on self-reported symptoms have grossly overgeneralized the affected patient population and fueled controversy in the minds of many as to whether chronic fatigue syndrome is in fact truly the physiologic and debilitating illness that it is. Although to this point there is no gold standard of diagnosis, there are enough physiologic biomarkers which have not even come into consideration with the revision of the diagnostic criteria. Criteria need to be more specific and objective and might include requirements for a certain number of abnormalities, such as are evaluated by the Department of Social Security for determination of disability according to Regulation 99-2P. Some of these include immune system and endocrine system laboratory abnormalities, as well as abnormalities on other studies such as cardiopulmonary exercise testing, tilt table testing, nuclear medicine studies, lumbar puncture, SPECT scanning, sleep studies, cognitive testing, quantitative EEGs, cognitive function testing, if I didn't already say that. Several therapies have shown potential in the treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome empirically by clinical experience and small studies which have not had the funding dollars that have been available to the CDC over the last 25 years. The fact that after 25 years we still do not have a single medical therapy approved by the FDA for treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome is unconscionable. Only 1,000 hours of continuing medical education have been provided by the CDC to healthcare professionals, according to their website. To my knowledge, CFS still isn't even spoken of in medical schools or residency programs. Why such lack in this area? Without education of new generations of healthcare providers, scientists, the general population, how can we expect to move forward? Our healthcare providers, scientists, and communities must be educated in order to rise above the lack of awareness and professional understanding of this illness, the lack of healthcare provider support of patients and their families, the ignorance which results in discrimination by the communities and healthcare providers, verbally accusatory and abusive healthcare behaviors, unwillingness to treat or even see patients, inability of healthcare providers to interpret or understand implications of objectively abnormal cardiopulmonary function testing, all of which exacerbate the very problem which medicine aims to abolish. The mistreatment of patients and lack of appropriate, even adequate, healthcare is an embarrassment to my profession. We must first do no harm. We cannot continue to sit by and do nothing while this as of yet undefined public health priority goes unchecked and continues to exert an estimated $9.1 billion annual economic impact. The financial burden is large, but the even larger loss, which cannot be well characterized by figures, is the social impact. The loss of productivity, public image, social responsibility, leadership of citizens, many of whom previously had made great contributions to society, now not only sick but angry too. The psychological damage resulting from abusive healthcare providers who tell patients that there is no such thing as chronic fatigue syndrome or it's all in your head and push them to exercise past their limitations, can't or won't help, or worse, creates undue psychological burden to the patient, family, and community, and contributes to physiological and emotional stress, exacerbation of symptoms, propagation of misunderstanding and misinformation. Yet there is no public health policy program at the CDC to counteract ongoing stigmatization. This is why leadership must change. The absence of senior leadership from the CDC CFS research program at the March 2009 CFSME International Conference is a prominent example of how insular and uninvolved this program has been with the larger scientific community and patient communities. Leadership must recognize the urgent need to attend to this crisis, the public health priority, the epidemic that is chronic fatigue syndrome. I ask that the CFSAC reaffirm its recommendation that leadership of the CDC program for chronic fatigue syndrome be changed. Only with new leadership will this disabling illness become the public health priority that it deserves to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Black. I will note it's approaching 10, and I believe it's 10 to noon. We're going to be invaded by the kids from daycare who will be on the other side of the lobby. It is a big concrete wall, but I'm hopeful they'll use their inside voices, but there had been a trick-or-treat event set up for these kids today. It is the day before Halloween. And folks are aware to try to keep the noise down because of the webcast and so forth. But, you know, I beg your forbearance. I will demand of my staff in the back that you do everything you can to keep people as quiet as they can be, understanding that 4-year-olds, 2-year-olds don't quite get it. But, you know, let's do our best here. Yeah, we don't have any candy. Dr. Ken Friedman, next on the list here, please.
Good morning. My name is Kenneth Friedman, and I am a medical school professor. I have been asked by the IACFS-ME to comment upon the status of chronic fatigue syndrome education in the United States. Comments on the academic medical school environment. The director of the Office of Ethics and Compliance of my employer has informed me that my off-campus activities related to chronic fatigue syndrome, which include testifying before this committee, serving on this committee, providing continuing medical education courses throughout the United States, establishing medical student scholarships, and assisting healthcare legislation, are not part of my responsibilities as a university professor. I am told that I will be punished with a penalty as severe as termination of my employment for these activities. I am not a unique target. Colleague Ben Nadelson has